Anga no whakahaka o hataanga, pe whewhe iwa i ngā whau e whiwhine pe koe tangata tonga. Mea mai ke Pasifika TV mai le tio, kau solova ho palopalewa. Ma o ato ai ngahi tohini, i ai whoki mo ngahi koloa o kumau whatau atu, na elalanga me ngahi loa kau tāla o loto pahapua. Ai ene whangalata mo ene toe toloa. Ia lava mai o toli mo whili aho manako. Tala atu, koe mautangua, ke maki hea tupe, i e whoi kolope.
Pasifika TV and Radio is now available on an app. Download your app today on Apple Store or Google Play.
First of all, I would like to welcome our viewers to the Twinnies chat time. We have a very, very special guest with us tonight. Her ancestors were well-known choreographers or punakes in Tonga. She is also the author of Fe'unu Koula. Twinnies would like to welcome our very own Tongan punake, Miss Milika Fifita. Milika, malo elele and welcome, and thank you very much for your time. Milika, may I please ask you introduce yourself and share a bit of your background and family history with our viewers, please.
Malo apito Phavanni mawhainga mali e, pea kokole ke ukapa atu I he vai o matoka, talangata ia te au whai ki tu atu, kai ata ke uwhawhailo aki atu, ai whine motu atu ani. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. First and foremost, I give thanks to our Father in heaven for his omnipresence and his blessings that enable us, Phavanni, to continue on this journey called life in this earth school. So my name is Milika Fifita. I am the great-granddaughter of the late Willie Pusiaki. He was a close relative of our beloved Queen Salote from her connection to Kauhala Uta. And the late Queen Salote was a descendant of Lapaha through her mother, Queen Lavinia. The great Queen Lavinia is the great-granddaughter of the last Tuitonga, Laufilitonga. So through this line, she preserved the prestige of the historical highest-ranking lineage of the Tuitonga dynasty. So her composition of the Laka Laka for Lapaha and Kanokupolu, she embedded her personal history in those compositions. So I'm sure you heard a few of the Laka Laka from Lapaha. The late Salote composed 9 Laka Laka for Lapaha known as Lomi Peao, and spending 25 years from 1928 to 1953. And she entrusted her compositions to Lapaha, to my great-grandfather, Willie Pusiaki, to add the musical dimensions of the rhythm, melody, and harmony in several parts. So my great-grandfather, Willie Pusiaki, also choreographed the 7 of the Lomi Peao Laka Laka before he passed away in 1950. Then my great-uncle Malukava continued the duty. Then my grandfather, Tuila Pusiaki, continued carrying on the legacy until he passed away in the year 2000. So yeah, Phavanni, I was born and bred in Lapaha since 1972. You can see I'm now in Lapaha. Very proud, you know, to be brought up in Lapaha. Completed my education at Takwila College in 1990, and I started working as a tour guide and a dancer for the Tonga National Centre in 1991, and then migrated here to New Zealand in 1996, where I'm now running my own academy as my way of continuing on what my ancestors loved to do in the olden days. So that's just a
and I'm sure you will touch on it later on, but you use some of your your talent while you were working at the Tonga National Centre. But we'll get there. We'll get there after. So the title of your book is Fe'unu Koula. I understand you wrote Fe'unu Koula after you graduated with a Master's of Applied Indigenous Knowledge Level 9 there in New Zealand. May I please ask how the title of the book came about and why did you decide to write the book, please?
Malo Alpito. When I finished from college in 1990, my auntie Talavao and some of my maternal uncles were already residing here in New Zealand. So I wanted to come to New Zealand and live here. However, around the same time, the Tonga National Centre was operating in full force. And my uncle, the late Tuyalo Kefu, was the master poet of the Punake at the National Centre at the time. And they were planning and they were preparing a dance tour, a dance trip to travel to Japan with the senior officers from the Pataki Mamata, the tourism industry, to promote Tonga and to take part in an annual festival in Tokyo and to represent Tonga. So Tuyalo came to see my grandfather to invite him to go with them on the tour so that my grandfather can play the nose flute, the fangu-fangu. But at the time, my grandfather, Tuila, was a tutor at Atenis University and he couldn't go. So he did send me to the National Centre to go and play the nose flute. And to be honest with you, Phavanni, at the time I was 19 and I never liked Tongan dancing. You know, I always cried because I was very hala. He tried to teach me the skills and of the Tawalunga, and you know, I was the total opposite. When I was in Takuilau, I created my own hip hop dance group called the Opatros. But I think I took the Fekau as a way of obeying my grandfather, and that's where I went. But I didn't agree. But he said to me, "Alu koe ai Fe'unu, ko haalo ke hoko atu ai whatongia ho whangakui. Ke alo o whaikelelei ke Koula, ai ngā ue ko ia, ko hiko tau teke ia, ai nge ia o whalelahi. He na e na moa ia ki koe ai whakaloto moa." So that's where I got the name, Fe'unu Koula. It didn't really dawn on me, you know, but it changed my life when I went to the cultural center. I became a dancer. I did everything. I think it was preparing me to who I am today. And I know that's what they wanted for us to keep on helping our royal family with the preservation of our culture.
Yeah, I think you know, go pale pe ai talangofua to your father. Now look at where you are now today, you know, and which takes me to my next question, and I have to apologize in advance just in case I offend hataha I tonga pe jopuleanga, but I am not aware of if a book of this sort exists. Okay, I know we have renowned punakes in Tonga, but I don't believe anyone has documented, especially in a book format, the meaning of having different hand movements or haka, as we call it in Tonga. So just a little bit about the book, Milika, because we don't want to give too much information. So, you know, we're trying to encourage our viewers and our listeners and our Tongan brothers and sisters to buy the book. Can you talk a little bit more about what language the book is written in? Who are your main targeted audience the age group, and why have you targeted those demographics in particular, please?
Yo, malo Alpito. I think that there's already books out there, but it was written by Palangi scholars, the likes of Professor Adrian Kepler and Ellen Wood, and they came to Tonga. I think they were friends of the late Queen Salote, and some people came and just observed and tried to interview our Tongan Punakes. But for my own personal opinion, at the time, English was a barrier. So, Kohape and Auki'i, they tried to sum it up as best as they could. The reason why I wrote the book is when I did my my study for my master. I struggled. I couldn't find any resources there online or in the libraries in order for me to use for my research. So most of the resources I used was the Talanoa, the oral Talanoa, the verbal Talanoa, and I refer a lot to what my grandfather guided me with. But not only that, I was fortunate enough, like what I said, to be a tour guide at the Tonga National Centre, where I gained a lot of skills and knowledge from Tuyalo Kefu, Swanekama, all the Tongan Punakes, Malukava, Silongo, Kupu. So so in my book, it is written both in English and in Tongan, because I feel it's important for our students who are studying, secondary school students and tertiary, or the students in the university. It's a resource material for them and for their studies, because I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And I struggled a lot to find books, because with doing a master, you have to have resources where you put reference.
And reference.
My field of practice was Tongan dancing, especially the Tawalunga. I struggled to find resource materials. And but again, Phavanni, the book is about Tongan dancing, Tonga, but it's my foot at the door in the literacy world. So I feel now where I am as a Punake, and it's about time that we document and write our history, because I've experienced that with my grandfather, and so was the late Tuyalo Kefu and Malukava and all of them. We only got very little of their skills and knowledge, by listening to them, and most of their indigenous knowledge were buried with them. And I feel, as a Tongan patriot, this would be my way of contributing to the preservation of our culture by start writing about it, and just put it out there, put it in the shelves of the libraries and online for students to use, especially our students. Because here in New Zealand, I often, welcome students from secondary schools who wrote essays and research about Tongan fiber, or even the Maiki from university. So yes.
Yeah, so I think that, or I believe that a lot of people would appreciate the book, because as you mentioned before, when you were doing your master's, there was no solid evidence or for you to use and to reference. So I think, and also the other point that I picked up is like all the names that you have mentioned are well known, and I know some of them. Tuyalo was my teacher when I grew up and when I was still in Tonga, and it's good, and I'm sure there are a lot of people Na'eako in Autole Tuyalo and other, and your late father and other Punakes. So we have the knowledge and some of the skills, but to collect all of that and put it in a book, in one place where you go and look for something and it's there. I think a lot of people will really appreciate. And well done and congratulations, for having the courage to do that. And especially Milika Oktawanga pe, that to hear most of our punakes were male, kakai, tangata, and also matuotua. But to have a young, a female, moafefine, koi punake, that's special. So well done to you. Well done to you. So I think I was going to ask you, as the author, what sort of connection do you hope your readers will have with Fe'unu Koula? But I think you have already covered that. Or would you like to add to that question?
Yeah, sure. I think, like I said before, this is just the beginning of a new journey for me to become a writer and an author of books that might be of interest or help out there for our emerging artists, our students who are, pursuing secondary and tertiary studies, and specifically because Fiverr was my field of practice and my strength. That's where I start and where I focus on. I think it's important, Phavanni, as you know, if there's drama in the community, it's most likely come from Taolunga and Tavahenga, and because people have mixed information and don't know which one is which. So I think to write a book, and I was very fortunate that Dr. Melenaite Taumoi was my supervisor. She's a well-known Tongan linguist here in Aotearoa, but everybody knows Dr. Melenaite Taumoi from Tonga. And she guided me well on where to start. And so with my book, and Fe'unu Koula, for me, it's a platform, and not only a resource material, but a platform where people want to know more about an in-depth of our fiber. I talked about what the meaning of the word fiber is, from whakameite to fiber. And then in there, when I explained the meaning of the word fiber, I also talked about the 5 types of Taolunga, Whakatonga, in the book. So that in that 5 types, you can tell the Tongan hierarchy and how our society from the, me falelahi, ke ho eiki, ke he ha'mea vale, and then the floor show and the contemporary one. So, but if you get the opportunity to buy and read the book, you will maybe learn new knowledge or raise awareness of the different types of Taolunga that we possess.
And that will also educate people, and non-Tongans, and especially Tongans, about our culture as well, and how important music and fiber, and how we connect, and it's natural for us get our fiber. And I think a lot of people would really, really appreciate, and it's really good, and you're very fortunate to have Dr. Taumoi there to be your supervisor, because not only she's she's a Tongan, but she would have a very vast understanding of our culture and the Taolunga. So I can't wait to buy the book.
Yes, it was very interesting, our relationship, because she guided me and she reminded me a few ancient Tongan dances, like the Me'lau Fola, the difference between the Ula and the Haiula. It's all in my book. I don't go into details. Like I said, it's my foot at the door. So maybe my second book, I'll focus on that story of where it originates from, the Ula and the Haiula, the differences in that. But I kind of start talking about it on the book, and it was very enlightening to Talanoa with Dr. Melenaite, and how the missionaries banned some of our Tongan fiber, and how cheeky our ancestors from La Paja were, you know, how they changed Taula and the Fahaiula into Taolunga. But those are all in my book.
In
and
the
also,
book,
I
yes.
disagree in my book that we
Yeah.
didn't steal the Taolunga from Samoa. As I've heard from some people a lot in the community, in events when they MC, they say that we steal Taolunga from Samoa, and I disagree on that. In my book, we have our own Tongan Taolunga. Because Phavanni, you already seen the Samoan Tawalunga, they glide, they set it to the side, you know, they move. With us, we stand still. We only move when it's necessary, according to the composition or the fa'u.
Yeah.
And also on my book, I talk about the punake, meaning the punake is the master poet, when you can compose, when you can choreograph, and when you can add music. And the punake was anointed by the ho'eiki. And when you use someone else's composition, you're not a punake. If I borrow your composition to choreograph, I'm not a punake. I'm a pulotu haka, because I'm borrowing your music and I just choreograph it. So it's not, I'm not entitled to be a punake if I can't compose or I can't put music to a song. You know, you have to be able to do all those three. And that's when Queen Salote and in the olden days, that's when they anointed o tapuaki o whakanofo, someone to be that punake.
Yeah. So we have a very rich culture there that you have managed to capture, your tohi, Milika, and you know, I remember you mentioned before there are books out there, but they were written yeah. So it's not the same to have your culture compare and for someone with, you know, the history and the family background, you know, to that particular subject or matter. So I really can't wait. The more we talk about it, I just can't wait to read the book. You know, going back to the and this is just a personal view and my comment, the title of the book, and you know, I now can sit here and think back, you know, to see a Tongan girl or a group of Tongan female dancers perform e Taolunga, you know, to see and witness the graceful and soft movements. Okay, like you sort of touch on that, the difference between the Taolunga and the Siva or Taolunga Whakahamoa. You know, the graceful and soft movements of the hands, the soft but very articulated movement of the head, or known as whakateki. You know, to see how their head and their eyes follow their hands, and to see the beautiful smile of the dancers capturing attention of the audience. I think your book, and especially the title, you know, Fe'unu Koula, capture all of what I just sort of described and shared, and that's my personal view as well. You have just a little bit, it doesn't give out too much information. You mentioned before that you know, the Tongan Taolunga is is it a combination of the Samoan Taolunga and the Tongan Ula? Is that true? Or is that a whananga only?
No, absolutely not. So if you have seen that a picture of the Fale Tonga, you know, there's a wood that lies across it's called Taufatunga Motua or Taolunga. And it started when the missionaries came and they banned Aiula. So again, when I said before, Fahaiula is, you know, when the dancers came from the side, they enter from each side. That's why it's called Fahai. You know, they are dancing from the left and the right. And they are the young maidens of AKC. You know, they could be someone of Ho'eiki Pepa, not like a princess. Eh? So in the olden days, they would be the ones who, it's like in a show, you have the curtain raiser and the people who start off, and the main entertainer will come from the middle. So Koula is when in the olden days, before the missionaries hit our shore, the Koula was only done by the Ho'eiki Lahi, the tahine, the highest rank.
Yes.
She would be the one coming in the middle, and the main focus of the Tuitonga, you know, is the girl in the middle.
That's right.
So Koula, so there were different. The Haiula are the Haukoheta Fa'aki, and the Ula was the dancer from the middle. The actions were different. The ones in the Tafa'aki, they repeated like pop singers.
Yes.
And the move and that were done in the middle, and so that's why the missionaries banned it, because it went against their mission to introduce Christianity to Tonga. How smart are people in the olden days? Now you know, instead of completely forgetting about it and dropping it, now hanga peo liliu, you know, and the Haiula, they changed it into the Ta'alunga Tokolahi, the female group dance.
Yeah.
And the solo dance, the Tongan solo dance, or me aya na change Aiula ki ai, or I got solo dance na imaya heula. So na kai the Samoan Tawalunga was brought when the Samoan Ainga came to Limapō, to the Takamotonga. And you can see Okuki Kehepeya. And I know you because you know used to come to La Paja, and if you see La Paja's Tawalunga, it's more graceful, more malumalu. The Takamotonga one and other villages of Ki'i Alue Whaka Siwa Whaka Samoa. So we have the Kauhala Uta. The Kauhala Uta Tawalunga is the real Tongan dance. The Kauhala Lalo, you know, because they have a Samoan connection. The Toki Hangai, our late queen, or modify ke nofo mai be I he Tawalunga Whakatonga. Because of Christianity, e Tapule Oto, the Kauri Shell, and the Lolo, you know, to advise and to teach our young girls to remain pure. When it glows, you are still pure, you know, and if you've been deflowered, like get a clove oil and all that. So are the reasons why. So we didn't steal it from Samoa just for the sake of doing a fiber. We have our own Tongan, and it equals the uhinga of the Tauwhatunga Motua and the Tauolunga on the Whaletonga. Because the Tauwhatunga Motua is the wa'akau that holds all the wa'akau that come down new and all that. Maybe another book will is when not every Punake were able to teach. My ancestors were fortunate to be able to. So in my book, that's why I said there are 5 types of Tawalunga, because of why a way I Punake to teach a whakahoifua. But that,
of course,
when she performs at Tawalunga, is whakahoifua. Why ngahi way I Punake. O kai ke to teach ya ki hame avale. The second one ko whakame ite. O na tolu ya ho e tam ka ofefine no pele ho e ke fonua. Ko talunga fika tolu leva. Ko talunga fai he konseti ko mali ko. From a Punake's experience and the way and his method of teaching, ke hepe when you teach a princess, why ngahi fo iwa I haka eiki. Te pehe kia motolu ai whanawa ho eiki mo tau no pele. Te kehe hono teach the commoners. Te kehe lewa ai si oia ki he floor show tau orunga. Hono objective on ia is to entertain the tourists. Because the tourist doesn't understand the lyrics. They just want, you know, fast-paced. So yeah, that is also in my book. So you are, yeah.
It's interesting, and I am learning a lot as well, because I wasn't aware that there are 5 types of tauolunga. So really, really appreciate this opportunity, Milika. And also, I just wanted to, talk more or just mention, earlier on you mentioned the difference between a taolunga from La Paja and the taolunga from the Tatagamotonga. I think the reason why I'm bringing it up, because I don't want people from Tatagamotonga to be offended and think that, it's not that. It's really good that you have pointed out that there are different taolunga La Paja with taolunga Tatagamotonga, which I think next time I come to Tonga, I will have to really sit there and study, to see if I will be able to pick up the difference between the taolunga. But it's a very good and important point that you raised, Milika.
And it's not a bad thing like what you said, and I'm not just saying, but I'm just saying ko taolunga akahala uta ai graceful of mama lia perfect 80 ko taolunga ko ni ko na o mai ko me ha moa na tu foki the name of ko apiko tatakamotonga stems from taimi ko na si hawa kai nga mal o lima po ko ia came and stayed in Tatakamotonga office. And I pe na to ke o mai siwa whakasamoa ande. But te ke whakatonga pe ko ia ku asiko he whaiva o ku make he pe taolunga Tatakamotonga in their own amazing way. E ka ko uhinga pau in terms of kehe. Te ko fo i Tatakamotonga foki Phavanni is a different thing, but ko taimi ko na alata kaule kaule ka ha moa and play with the Tongan kids pe na whaatangi. And this is what the parents said. Na tala tu ke tu ko alo tataka mo Tonga. Ko atunga na teketang. So don't go mixing with the Tongans that you end up crying. So go hinga go hinga in a bad way. Go hinga and I think it's a good thing to address because of tau ilobe there's a lot of fe'au taolunga. And people need to know ko fe taolunga ke judge, ko fe ngahi choreography. Ke whakafoki lewa ke ngai tu unga koia. He koe in the past with the Hueiki, hei peho naulangi tau olunga. And they were the only ones na taki mai, whakahauho eiki, te whakanani. We as commoners na mau puno watu pe talunga lere kito, ko hinga koe whaikehe. Koe in the olden days, koe talunga koe a tau princesina, of course, mani. In front of the whole who are we? We are humble to pay. So there's quite a few interesting points you're raising.
No, that's important. Thank you for clarifying that. So I also heard, and I'm going to ask you to share with our viewers about your dance academy there in New Zealand.
Yes. So now when I came here, like I said, it didn't dawn on me the weight of the name Fe'unu Koula until I came here to New Zealand in 1996. And a few people knew me from Tonga when I was the commentator at the Tonga National Centre. Yes. And I was picked to work for the Radio 531 PI. With Lavoni Matoto Manukia. And from there, I think someone noticed me. And I was a tutor I was a dance tutor at Auckland Uni in 2003. And in there, I received a lot of requests for me to teach at the Maiki for the Taolunga. And I couldn't chuckle my management skills in my time. So I thought, why not, establish an academy where I could set time specifically for when I teach and have time for when I become a mom and do tafo and all that. So that's where it all started. And for me, I took the name Fe'unu Koula just to continue on. Fe'unu, for me, when I try to interpret what my grandfather said, dynasty when they first initiated the idea of Faiva to travel to Uvea and Omaiko Makake Fatwake Otulangi. So that's where it all started from. There hoko mai ai pe kia tuku aho and malukava fineasi, hoko mai pe kia ne afio kia Quinnsalote, hoko mai Kavaliku. So to me, it's a fe'unu. It's like, it's a metaphor that every ancestors of ne hoko it's a metaphor whakapunake. Ai fo I la langa o ngau e koni ko whaiva, niango pepe kia tu hoko mai tau tangata ke whaipe. So up to my grandfather, nei hoko mai ko ne whaingaui at the Nisi and everywhere else. Ia ne ave a iau mo ne lea mai kokoe ai fe'unu, e ke hoko atu ai ngaue. And so for me, establishing this academy is my way of contributing or continuing the duty I Falelahi. Because my academy, we focus on heritage art. We don't support contemporary, but we are more into the indigenous skills and knowledge.
A true Tongan traditional way of dancing. Yeah. And it makes sense because the work you're doing now, you know, you were nurtured and those skills were instilled I koe ke hoka tono lalangai. Mohono whakahoko ai ngahi ngā ue nā nau whataki mai from, you know, meo nau taimi. So what are the next steps for you with the Academy and your book? I know previously you mentioned another book. So is that the next step for you?
Yes, definitely. So I'm very fortunate and I count my blessings here, you know, finding this opportunity for Twinnies to take me on board. And, you know, I have no words to show my gratitude here, si offer mai o kumofai, because it's not for me, but it's for our young ones and our emerging artists. So the plan here for another book is when I go into the why, when, what, how, and the do's and don'ts of Taolunga Whakatonga. You know, hangeko, for example, when you maybe ne whatalatu and na ani maki alunga don't have to fight. So those are the why. And you have to see mind. It must be 45 degrees. I'm okay, hold there. You have to look okay, remember time okay, fika your nima should be in the angle of 45 degrees. Like if you make 32, get drop the hair, have to lift it up. From 45 to 90 and from 90 to 120 is the maximum on a tongan taolunga if you outstretch to 180 degrees. So those are the plans for my next book. I'll level to the more details of focusing on Tongan Taolunga for the benefit of our young emerging artists who want to become punake, because we can't live forever, my generation and the older ones. So we need to document it for the younger ones who are passionate about.
I think I have a request for you as well to include in your second book, because when I was taught the way I was taught, you know, your hands, you used to do that with your hands. But nowadays, I've noticed, which from when I grew up, I thought that was but maybe you can cover that in your book.
I wrote it in my list for my second book. That's true. Stick out her thumbs like this. And the women or alupe, but those are important elements of Taolunga Femau, and there are reasons behind it. Even the puno, why you puno and you draw out your nima. It's all about attracting the energies of the ancestors, you know, to give you the courage, because you're standing there to represent your ancestors, but for yourself. Yes. When you perform at Taolunga, you know, spiritually and all those things, they are all, the ancestors are with you. Yeah, definitely my second book.
That's good. Is there any intention to translate your book into the Tongan language?
Yeah, it's both in Tongan and the English language.
Oh, perfect.
My first target was just to write in Tongan, but when I launched it here in February, most of the customers or most of the people who requested, they wanted the English version. So we are getting it in both